guys, welcome to this week's episode of Mixed Review. This is episode number 3.
Yep.
All right, and this week Dave reviewed I Let It In, and It Took Everything by Loathe, newer band from the UK, awesome band. And I reviewed the Unlocked EP, really short EP, by Denzel Curry, not Denzel Washington.
So let's get into choosing who goes first. As always, rock, paper, scissors.
Shoot.
On shoot, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just making sure.
Can't do it.
You have won every goddamn time.
I'm in your fucking head.
You are.
Yep.
Psyching me out.
Yep.
So your choice.
I'm going to let you go first.
I'll go first.
We'll keep the pattern going.
All right, so album is I Let It In, and It Took Everything by Loathe. So we talked about it a little bit before we actually got into the episode. So I love it. I think it's a great album. So looking into the history of the band, looking into their genres, it's like metalcore, new metal, prog metal. And like as you listen to the album, you can really kind of pick some of that out.
Right.
You hear some of the, especially to me at least, a lot of the new metal stuff. I was around, when new metal was first coming up, the Linkin Parks and the Limp Bizkits and all that.
For
but
sure.
this is kind of outside. This is the actual new metal, where you have like some of the more upbeat tempo songs,
Real groovy.
a little groovier. Yeah. So that's what they're classified as upon their Wikipedia. Actually, they're from Liverpool, England, so the same home place of the Beatles.
And you can't tell.
You can't tell at all. No, not even a little bit. And they started in 2014, so this is their second studio album. They have a couple EPs that they put out. I haven't had a chance to listen to those or the other studio album yet, but I definitely will. So with this album, it came out this year, so it's really new. It came out on February 7th.
Brand spanking new.
Yeah, it's super new. And to me, just like an overall feel of the album, has a very, very heavy Deftones vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Very heavy. I don't want to say that it's influenced by, because I don't know if they look to the Deftones as inspiration, but at least me, and we've talked before, you as well, it's very Deftones-ish, which is not a bad thing at all. One of my favorite bands.
Right.
So it's great. I love the heavy vocals a lot throughout the whole album, and the clean vocals are great too.
So good.
So good. And the way they mix them in each track is really good. It's not. Some tracks are all heavy. Some tracks are all the clean vocals, and in most of them, they're a mix.
Right.
And I think it's great what they did throughout the entire album. How they had, it wasn't just all heavy, all clean, all a mix. It was literally
like there was no formula to their songs.
Exactly. Yeah.
They were all different.
Yeah, but even without having like an actual formula, the album itself flows very well. It crescendos around like the later half of it, and as it comes down, it feels like a roller coaster.
Right.
Not where it's like, oh, okay. It's more like fucking crashing down. Yeah, which is great. I think the way they ended the album was amazing. So to get into some of the tracks, let's start off on the lower end. There was only really one track that I didn't feel that inclined to enjoy really, and that's Broken Vision Rhythm.
Okay.
I think that's maybe like the second or third track on the album. The first track is Theme, which is just a kind of a instrumental, kind of a lead in. The second track is, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's
I think you had it pulled up, but anyways,
Aggressive Evolution.
Yeah, that one is pretty good. It has, again, the cleans and the heavies in it, which is nice because it kind of sets the tone for the whole album. And then with Broken Vision Rhythm, I just didn't really dig it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to take away from the album as a whole. Literally almost every other track on this album is fucking phenomenal, and I'm sorry for cursing for the kids out there, but literally I highly enjoyed this. So breaking it down from like least favorite tracks,
I know it's like not even like least favorite,
it's like
least good
exactly. Yeah, because it's not a bad track at all.
No.
It is mostly heavy vocals, which isn't bad. The heavy vocals in this entire album are really good. But to get into like favorite tracks, God, it's pretty much the rest of the album.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of break it down and really dissect each song to find out what I liked about the song, what made me want to come back and visit it. And that's where I kind of got like a list from.
Right.
So I don't want to take too much time by literally going track by track, but
we got nothing but time.
Right. So right after that goes into Two-Way Mirror. The cleans on this track are so good, and I feel like I'm gonna repeat that time and time again, but I really feel like it. I'm not hyping it. I really feel like the vocals throughout this entire album are really top tier. It's really melodic. Has like a back and forth with it, which I kind of dug a lot. New Faces in the Dark. The heavies are crazy good, especially on the bridge. Where it switches to like some of the clean vocals. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I like about the band in this album, Loathe, altogether, is that the back and forth between the heavy and the clean is very well done. And it's not it's not jarring. It's not very like cut off the cleans here and start the heavies. It like a couple songs they do it at the same time, and it adds this really good depth and layers to it, which I thought was really awesome.
Yeah. Spoiler alert! This might be my early album of the year contender. So I hear all of this.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
And we listened to the album before, like when it first came out. We were kind of listening to it, and we're like, you know, this might be a good mixed review. So we decided we'd go with it. And actually, looking at it like more objectively, I like it even more by like digging into it and not just enjoying it as like, you know, as you drive or you do whatever, like Absolutely. Sitting down and dissecting it. I'm like, this shit stands out. This stands out. This is good. This is why this is good. So to continue with the tracks, New Faces in the Dark. This track was really cool to me because again, there's this weird part where there's this like weird distortion in it, and it almost sounds like DJ scratching. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, okay, I can kind of see the new metal vibes kind of come out a little bit of the prog as well, because they're doing shit that's definitely out of the norm. But again, it kind of gives me that Deftones vibe because for whatever reason, like, in my opinion at least, Deftones did like a lot of weird shit with like the guitars, and their drums were kind of were different as well, which really picked up on this. But like that DJ scratching part in New Faces really stood out to me, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down so I don't forget that. So I thought that was really cool. And then the next track after that was on my favorite list is by and far favorite track of the whole album, and that's Screaming. I wrote so much shit down about it. I was like, I love this, I love this, I love this. But to me, what really stands out are the cleans. They're super, super spicy. Like, holy shit. Like, throughout the chorus and the pre-chorus. The heavies on the bridge were really, really dope. And then the instrumental overall, like the switch back and forth, because it starts out real kind of heavier, and then throughout the chorus it calms down, comes back in again, and it's actually, I think, one of the longest songs on the album. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of that back and forth between the heavies and the cleans, as well as a lot of the instrumental throughout the whole thing, which I thought was good, because some of the songs, in my opinion, feel a little shorter, where I feel like if they were fleshed out more, they would probably be more higher on my list than Screaming.
Right.
But Screaming being as long as it is, and the back and forth, having both the cleans and the heavies, really stood out for me. So favorite track on the album. So if you do listen to it, make sure you check that one out. And then right after that is Gourd, which is funny to me because we keep mentioning, or I keep mentioning, how they really remind me of Deftones. Deftones have a song called Gore. So I'm like...
Well, this is the name of the album, too.
Yeah, it was the name of the album, yeah. So I'm just like, I wonder if they are. So I'll have to look into that a little bit more, maybe do a little investigating, see if they are influenced by them. But from what I read about them, it didn't really seem like it.
Yeah, not like directly.
Not directly.
We're going to copy these.
Yeah. But it's just a happy coincidence. And I think they do that kind of formula that Chino and the guys have very, very well. So more power to Loathe.
Right.
The drums on Gourd are fucking crazy. Yo, like, they are ridiculous.
Well, they're so raw.
They are, yeah.
Well, see, like, cause it's funny because I love listening to albums like this where I'm like, God damn, that's fucking heavy. But it's not like death
It's
metal.
not just like,
It's not like
yeah.
death metal where it's fast and technical and like
Mhm.
it's just it's intense.
Yeah.
And it's raw.
Yeah, and it feels
it's
emotional.
so much heavier
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
You know?
It feels like there's something in it, not just make
Right.
noise and music. You know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
there's a time and place for that, but on this album, no. This is putting out music,
Yeah.
like good ass music. So
know.
if you can't tell, I'm really a big fan of this album.
Dude.
So,
Yeah.
and then after Gourd, Heavy as the Head That Falls. So the whole track name is Heavy as the Head That Falls with the Weight of 1,000 Thoughts. Great track name, first off. That's very like an emo track name or like Fall Out Boy or some shit like that. But
I feel like a boss says that before you fight him.
so I really enjoyed that, and kind of like what I was mentioning before. I think it's let me see the track list. So it starts out with Is It Really You, and then Gourd, and then Heavy as the Head. So those 3 songs together, I actually put this in my like wrap up. Those 3 songs have such a fucking great flow. Like the flow from Is It Really You is super soft. It's melodic. It's definitely 90% cleans, a little bit of heavy, like, but it's like backing vocals. It's
Right.
not in front. It's very behind like the melody. It's very behind the instrumental, but you still hear it. And it's like, okay, there's little layers to it. But then it goes into fucking Gourd, which is bananas.
It's just balls.
So heavy.
Dude.
Yeah, it's so good. And and then it flips. So then it's 90% heavy, 10% clean. And the cleans are like in the chorus, I think, a little bit. And then it goes into Heavy in the Head, which is a fucking great mix of both. And I feel I want to think that they did that on purpose, and it's not just me like oh no, they did that, you know. But
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you guys from Loathe see this, like, let me know, please, like, because I really felt like that was planned ahead. That's really soft, really heavy, and then a mix of both to kind of show the range of what they're putting out.
Like you said, it just flows. Like the whole album, start to finish, it just flows.
Yeah, it's
so
so
well.
good, so good. After that, some honorable mentions. This is something I kind of threw in there. Red Room, super fucking heavy. Holy shit! And I think it's the shortest track on there too. So it's just like, and then just I'm like, wait, what? So like when you first showed me this album, and that wasn't one of the tracks that we heard, you know. That wasn't one that really played, at least not that I remember. But listening to it on my own and digging into it, I'm like, holy shit, how do I not remember this? Super heavy, super great, loved it. And then again, Is It Really You gets an honorable mention, not just for that three track run, but that is by and far to me at least, the most heavily Deftones influenced track on there. Like, that seems like something that the Deftones made. You know what I mean? And then, again, that's not a bad thing at all. That's kudos to Loathe for having that sound and making it sound good. So overall thoughts, I think it's pretty obvious. I love the album.
Fuck yeah.
I would highly suggest this to anyone.
Yeah,
whether you're a fan of metal or not.
Right, yeah, rock, metal, anything. Well,
Yeah.
and actually it's funny too because you obviously got the Deftones influence real bad.
I mean, the
but-
way that you introduced me to the band
I know,
was,
you're like-
I'm going to play this for you, and you tell me who this sounds like. And I'm like, within the first couple of fucking melodies, I'm like, that's the Deftones. And you're like, it's not, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but they there's a couple other bands that influence more of the heavy bits.
Okay.
That I'll have to show you because one of them is actually one of my very favorite bands, and I'm sure I've showed them to you at some point. But like the heaviness and like some of the atmosphere stuff, like while some of the atmosphere and like the etherealness is definitely Deftones because they do plenty of that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it also reminds me of the Contortionist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the heaviness.
Super technical, too.
Yeah, but like also like really explosive.
Mhm.
You know, like the really raw heaviness, the really raw heavy vocals. You know, reminds me of a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, you have showed me about, again, like this. I've never really dug into it, so I definitely think that's on the agenda for sure.
Yeah, and I'll be seeing them in 2 weeks.
Nice.
actually.
Hell yeah. We're at.
Cleveland
Nice. That's pretty close.
with Devin Townsend.
So, overall, no qualms with the album. Like I said, even the track that I didn't really like, it's not because it was a shitty track. It was just because it was the lesser of great songs. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
really enjoyed it. So this isn't even an album that I listen to just for this. This is an album that I'm going to continue to listen to. You know what I mean? Because I really related to it. Like I said, a huge Deftones fan. So this, to me, is what I've always wanted from the Deftones. Some of that heavier.
Right.
Shit, yeah.
Like it's almost like a what if.
And like you said, the atmosphere stuff they have in spades. You know what I mean?
Point.
They have that great. But here with Loathe, it's a great mix of that atmosphere with like the really heavy shit. So
right, and it, like I said, and Deftones has gotten plenty heavy over the years, but not like this.
Yeah,
not
this
like
is very. I kind of want to say Kono Yokon ish with maybe a little bit of some of their older shit. Yeah, like White Pony a little bit. Yeah,
For
White
sure.
Pony because White Pony was pretty heavy.
Right.
It had its heavier moments. Yeah, so I would say it's a nice mix. So if you enjoyed Deftones, definitely check out this album. 100%.
For sure. Well, and the funny thing is like just new metal they're trying to revive it. There's a couple of bands trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
And but like even like metalcore, and that's why I'm glad I gave it a chance because I almost didn't, because I don't generally like metalcore or what.
Because that's more like the theatrical.
No. Metalcore is like Kill Switch Engage.
Oh, okay.
That kind of stuff, like
yeah.
real melodic, real emotional, but like real formulaic, and it usually doesn't land with me at all.
Yeah, because it follows a very,
So very, very formulaic, but I'm so glad. Like it's just that there's been a couple albums, and this is one of them where it's
Have you had a chance to listen to their? Oh, I forgot to mention their last album came out in 2017. Before this, so there's been a 3-year gap.
Yeah, I think it's the Cold Sun. I listened to it like twice, and you can tell it's like this is the progression.
Okay.
Because it's like it's good, but you can tell it's just not.
So this is bad. Oh, and I forgot to mention the very last track, which is the title track. Fucking amazing.
So good.
So good. Like
we should just done an episode just on this album.
Yeah. I could go into it, but I really, 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 really enjoyed this one. So.
Cool. All right, cool. So it's not an album, but
it's not.
But the EP that I did is Unlocked by Denzel Curry, and it is about 40 minutes shorter than the Loathe album. So there's really not a lot
to go on. Yeah,
it's 8 tracks, and it's like a punk album basically because it's most songs are maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
It's
something
very
like that.
Yeah, thrashy.
Yeah, and it's just super dense. That's the best way that I can talk about it. It's just like it starts off kind of slow. Watch yourself. It starts off kind of slow, but not slow, but the way that the narration is. I'd be interested to see if he who that was.
Yeah,
because I couldn't find it, but and it was really interesting the tone that it sets. Like it already sets like a real serious tone. That you can tell it's gonna be just an album of just him expressing himself and really just diving deep into his psyche and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's
I just noticed these came out on the same day.
Did they? What?
Both came out on February 7th. Was not planned either. That's crazy.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yep.
Don't feel special.
That was a great day in music.
It was.
But yeah, so it's like I said, I like that it's so short because it makes it really easy to just keep listening to it, and I have, but and it also flows really well. Yeah. But I had to remember the first couple times I listened to it, I couldn't even tell when the songs started and stopped. It just goes, and it's
very quick and very in your face.
Yeah. And so overall, I did enjoy a lot of it, but I had a hard time connecting with it. Just because there were parts here and there where he was talking about his childhood and being a man and the stuff that comes with that and with society, especially a black man and that kind of stuff, where you can really tell that it's raw and it's real and it's it's not some
it's not from a commercial
it's not
place.
Some fluffy shit.
Yeah,
that
it's
just
from
out. It's that's his life, and I really appreciated that aspect, but the real aggressive, the real raw, real in your face stuff, the real braggy kind of stuff, there's really not too much of that. It's only on a couple songs, but I had a hard because with the music that I've listened to in my life, and there's not really a lot of that tone, it's most of the stuff that I've ever listened to, like obviously we listen to like comedy stuff here and there, but it's mostly like really serious, but it's real introspective. It's real, or it's like concept albums about stories and that kind of stuff. So there's not a lot of like hype stuff or anything like that. So it was like a completely new thing for me to
completely
really,
out of your wheelhouse
to really try and dig into and like find something in it that I could connect with. And whereas objectively I was able to listen to it and I like there's nothing really I don't like, you know. So, and one thing that I noticed, and I might get crucified for this, but his voice, while he did have a lot of variation, a lot of styles changes, like we were saying before, like he kind of has different styles in almost every track. He raps differently and almost everything. Overall, it didn't stand out much to me.
Like his voice?
Yeah, like it didn't sound super unique or anything like I hadn't heard before. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
But
like, did you ever see his Bulls on Parade?
Yeah.
So
I think Milty showed that.
Yeah,
to me,
so that definitely stands out from like Zach De La Rocha's like thing. Whereas with this there's nothing really go off of, so it's just kind of him,
right? And it's partially, and it could definitely be partially just my like the fact that I don't have a ton of knowledge in hip hop artists, especially in this kind of lane. But there was nothing that I could really latch onto that was like, oh, you know, like
I relate to that.
That's him, and like. But it was funny because I actually found myself liking it more and more the more I listened to it, and it's funny because we usually do like track breakdowns and stuff, but I found it really hard to like really pinpoint stuff.
Yeah, because it almost is like one really long.
It just goes.
Yeah, piece.
So I had to just kind of pick like my favorite things that he does. You know, like so like he's got a lot of nerdy references, like video game references. Like the lightsaber part and like the little sound effect that was fucking cool. But then one thing that we were talking about a little bit before, but I keep hearing like pitch shifted vocals in these types of releases in hip hop and stuff like that, and you don't get that in any. And I it's always bewildered me. Like I really have.
Yeah. And like I said prior to recording, I think it's definitely a genre thing, and I also think it's kind of like a cultural thing to kind of like go extreme on like on one end or the other, you know, super heavy bass or super high pitches or, you know, what have you, especially if it's not with the vocals itself, do it with the music to kind of make it stand out, make it pop.
Right.
And I found that in like a lot of hip hop, especially a lot of the newer stuff too. If you listen to older hip hop, you won't get that. It's consistent throughout the whole thing.
Right.
Whereas in today's hip hop, and it's not really a problem,
but
it's definitely different and trying to stand out and definitely trying to break the mold, I guess you could say. Well,
because it almost seemed like I said, a lot of times it's almost comedic sometimes. You know, like it is, especially when it's high pitched. You know, but even some of the real lower pitch stuff, it's like it's still kind of goofy. It's like they're not taking themselves too seriously, which is I actually like that.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so it's overall, it's like I said, I had a really hard time really getting in and digging into it. So I don't have as nearly as an extensive.
It's a little switch because usually you're the
I know, yeah.
Which is good. I like it. It's dynamic.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what would you give the album?
So I mean,
would you recommend it rather?
So I think it, like I said, objectively,
or EP.
Yeah. 17 minutes. But objectively, like I said, it's not bad. It's good. Like I said, and one thing I haven't mentioned, which we were talking about a little bit before too, but the production and the beats. Like, but see, that's actually kind of funny because I almost forgot to say that. But it was the one thing I noticed about the beats is that while they are unique and they're cool, they kind of like he commands so much of the like attention of your ear. Like he pushes the beats back, even if it might be mixed back too. But I almost like when I really tried to listen to him, like, oh, that's super cool. But like all I was really hearing was him. You know, and like you could just faint like beats and you know just the different random stuff that was going on that was a little bit more memorable.
Some of the sound.
But I thought that was an interesting observation because it's like, but I think he would I think he would like that. Probably.
Yeah.
You know,
And like you were saying, like the production on there is crazy. Kenny Beats did amazing job. I was one of the reasons I put this up for you to listen to kind of see how you would feel about a producer like this, because there are a ton out there that would love to give you like a lot of the Mad Lib shit, especially. Right. I don't know if you're familiar with Mad Lib as a producer.
Nope.
And a beat maker, but holy mother, so good. So maybe for a later episode.
Yeah. Well, but like I said, from just a beat perspective, when I really stopped to listen to them, like they were super cool. But I liked them because they were deceptively simplistic, and straightforward. But then when you really listen, there was a lot of cool shit going on. But like it never really seemed like the focus. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure, 100%.
But yeah, overall, like I said, I didn't not like it, but not my favorite.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I'll continue to listen to it.
Yeah,
but I'd be interested to see what he does next, because you could tell that he's an extremely creative mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what he'll do. So if you want something that's really in your face, more on the aggressive side, and really challenge you, I guess, if you're trying to get in hip hop, I would recommend definitely checking it out. But you'll be surprised for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Mixed Review. Come back next week where we review the Boyz II Men Christmas album, as well as Bob Ross breathing as he sleeps. We'll see you next time. And remember, it's always for the content.
The content.